Pain, passion, or profession. You have to have at least one of these factors to resonate with your ideal client. Because the thing is, in order to sell to them, you have to connect with them. They have to feel understood. And so you have to have either a pain, a passion, or a profession that you share with them. And I want to walk you through those three today so that you understand what you need to find your ideal client, but also make sure that you can actually sell to them. Pain is something that you've lived with, but you've overcome. And so a pain for myself was, I was a sales professional and I wanted to start my own business, but I didn't understand what that transition period was like. So I was in this pain where I would show up to work and I just didn't get on with it. I didn't like it because I knew that I had more potential and that I could start a business. So that was a pain that I experienced, but eventually I overcame it. And so I help people now overcome that pain too. And so the pain is something you lived with, but overcame. And so if you have this as a commonality with the person that you're selling to, you can immediately connect with them. And I know this is such a cliche that when you're selling to someone, you should be their friend. The thing is, I kind of want to go against that. As long as there's a commonality and they feel understood and they know that you're articulating the pain that they're in properly, they will buy from you. You don't necessarily have to resonate with them and you don't necessarily have to sound like a friend. They just got to know that you understand their pain to such a degree that they know that you can help them overcome it. That is the priority, and that is what you need when selling to someone. The other thing that you can have is a passion. So you might share a passion with them. So my passion is video editing and filming. And so if I meet someone who also shares this passion, we immediately connect and we immediately have this commonality between us. And so for me, it's a lot easier because what I've done is I've broken down that first kind of gate of trust. And I'm going to run through the gates of trust in a later episode. But essentially, as long as you can establish that trust in the first beginning phases by having a shared passion, it will make it so much easier to sell because you immediately connect with them and they immediately feel like you understand them better. The last one is profession. And so if you share a profession with someone, so for example, sales, whenever I meet another salesman, it's almost instant. We almost become friends in the moment. And it's just this moment where you're like, oh, you're in sales, I'm in sales. And especially if you're selling something in a similar field, it's even better. And so if you can share a profession with this person, or at least a career path that you've both gone on, again, they're more likely to feel understood and they're more likely to connect with you on a level that is required to sell to them. And that level all comes down to the trust. And so today I want to kind of find your ICP, your ideal client, based on the experiences that you've had, the accomplishments that you've done, and the skill sets that you have. And so if you haven't watched my previous episode, go and watch that because I told you to create a Google Doc with all of this as a list. And we also built an offer, $1 million offer that you can sell. Because I knew that we had to start with the offer before looking at the person to actually sell that offer to, which is what this episode is about. And so my 5 parameters that I like to look at to see if someone actually wants to buy my thing is, number 1, do they have a problem to solve? So number 1, problem to solve. Because if they don't have a problem to solve, they won't buy because they're not in enough pain to go, actually, I need this thing. Number 2 is urgency. Because the thing is, the person that you're selling to could have this problem and they may be living with it. But the thing is, if it's not an urgent thing and it's not something that they wake up thinking about, they still won't buy. They have to have an urgency to do it. And so that is probably one of the main factors, so I'll star that. As long as there's urgency, they will be in a position where they want to buy. The next one is money, AKA, do they have the purchasing power to afford your solution? Because if they can't afford it, they won't buy it, obviously. Number 4 is authority. This does more apply if you're selling to corporate, but you've got to make sure that that person that you are selling to is the key decision maker. They are actually the person who will be making the decision on the purchase. So they've got to have the authority to make that decision. So decision maker. And finally, number 5 is market growth, or growing market. Because the thing is, if I got into newspapers, for example, that is a dying market. People don't read newspapers anymore. They just look at their phone, so it's because it's much easier. But if you get into a market which isn't growing, soon you'll be out of business. So you have to find a market that is growing. And I'll give you a big tip, which I did cover in episode 1, but if it's in one of these 4 core, it will be a growing market. Sales, marketing, coding, and copywriting. These are the fundamentals of a business, and so it is always growing because businesses are always being started and they're always in need of these core 4 in order to grow. And so these are always a growing market. And if something catastrophic happens, maybe AI. But general rule of thumb, they are a growing market. So if you can get into a market where this is present, or at least it's linked to one of these 4, then you know it's a growing market. Or at least do your market research to make sure that it is. That is the fundamentals of understanding who to sell to. Do they have a pain that you've lived with and overcome? Or do they share a passion with you, something that you love and that you can resonate with them about? Or do they have a career path where they share the profession that you also have? So those are kind of some key parameters. The other 5, as we've just gone through, do they have a problem that they need solving? Do they have the urgency to purchase now to solve that problem? Do they have the purchasing power, so the ability to afford the solution? Do they have the authority to make the decision? And are they in a market that is growing? And we went through the core 4, which is a growing market. Now what we're going to do is we're going to kind of build on what we did in the last episode, and we are going to find the people that you can sell to with the offer that you built. What I have done is I have created a 7-figure business plan template for you. And what we're going to get by the end is everything in this template will be filled out from the GPT, because I wanted to give you a 1-page template where you could go to it and go, this is my whole offer, this is who I'm selling to, and this is my delivery, and like how I'm actually delivering that service, that product, whatever it is. And so I'm going to put the sheet below so that you can access it along with the GPT. And I'm going to fill this out with you now so that you understand how to do it. It's got all the prompts that you need, all the templates that you need, so that from these last 4 episodes, you have everything you need to build your 7-figure business. Because the next phase is client acquisition. How are you going to acquire the clients? And that is a deep topic, but I'm going to make sure I do it in a structured way so that you understand. So the GPT, this is kind of recapping what we did last time, but very, very quickly, just click start. It will then come back with a set of instructions of what is required for you to input. Now I've already done this, of course, so let me just very quickly catch up to where we were. Cool, so now we're caught up on where we were at the end of last episode. So the offer breakdown, offer statement, UVP statement, validation analysis, and a kind of snapshot of what that all looks like. The next bit is to extract that information and put it into the template that I've built. And so, for example, and for the moment, just skip over this bit, we'll come back to that in a second, but dream outcome, quite literally just go here, dream outcome, quit job and learn how to get clients in 30 days. So that's a dream outcome for the client. Proof/results of credibility. So I've closed $500,000 in sales. Cool. Method, how am I actually going to deliver it? Done with you. Cool. And so literally just go through here and paste in all the information. Skipping forwards a little bit in time, as you probably don't watch me copy it all across. Once it is complete, you will have everything filled out with absolutely everything you could possibly need for your 7-figure business, for your whole business plan, all in one template. You can get rid of the prompt once you've put it in. And it's basically just a sheet that you can look at and go, here's my 7-figure business. This is what it looks like. And what's really, really cool is whenever you have like a new idea or you discover something or it comes to the sales side, you can go back to that GPT and just ask it questions, go back and forth, just understand a bit more about your audience, a bit more about your offer. You can just adjust it, refine it over time. And so you'll have this GPT, which is trained on your entire business going forwards. And I will show you eventually how to take all that knowledge and put it into a second brain. And so once you've copied everything across, what you're gonna do is I've given you a GPT prompt to fill in this bit. Now, I just wanted for yourself to kind of have your skills and experience as a confidence thing, because going into a sales conversation, especially if you have this at the start, you want to have that confidence and you want to understand that you can actually help this person. And so I like to have it at the top. So quite literally, just copy the prompt, go into the GPT, paste it there, and what will come up is exactly what is required to fill out that table. There you go, it's made it for you. And just paste it in there, because then you can just look at it before the sales conversation and be confident in yourself that you can help this person. Because that is the most important thing, especially when it comes to selling. You have to be confident in yourself and you have to know that you are doing a good thing in trying to help that person. So just copy that in there. The next thing we're going to do is I've kind of given you an offer validation checklist. Now this is quite literally what we just ran through. So does the offer solve a painful problem? Does your target audience have the ability to purchase? Are they easy to target? And is the market growing? So quite literally just tick these off if all is yes. If it isn't, you've got to go back and you've got to remake the offer, or you've got to rethink about what you actually want to sell. Because if it doesn't tick all these four, you won't be able to sell it. End of. The next thing I want to focus on is your audience or your ideal client that you're going to sell to. So all you're going to do is you're just going to copy this prompt. You're going to go back to the GPT and paste it in here. So it's now giving you the table that I have put into that template. And so it gives you the target client that it recommends based on all those factors. So is it in a growing market? Are they in pain? And so for me, it's sales professionals ready to leave corporate and launch their own high-ticket consulting / coaching business using LinkedIn DMs. The reason it's chosen LinkedIn DMs is that's my specialist area. That's what I'm very, very good at. And it's also giving you a I help sentence. So you may have seen this if you've been on LinkedIn. People tend to have this as their headline. But for me, I help B2B sales pros quit their jobs and land high-ticket clients in 30 days using the LinkedIn DMs without ads, funnels, or prior business experience. So that's my I help statement. So that's what you would put on your LinkedIn headline. It's very similar to the offer statement. It's just so that it kind of consolidates everything together. You can just have one sentence where if someone goes, hey, what do you do? That's what you say. It's also got a few other things here. And again, same principle, quite literally just copy this across and put it into this table here. So the ICP clarity. So what does your ICP actually look like? And then the other thing is here as well, which is the 7-figure maths. So what I kind of wanted to articulate to you is that you're not as far away from 7 figures as you may think. The reason people think that it is quite far away is they do the maths wrong. And so if you are trying to sell something for $100, for example, you have to sell to 10,000 people to get to 1 million. And that is a lot of people. But if you sell something which costs 10,000 pounds or dollars, whatever, I'm from the UK, so I say pounds, but dollars, and you times that, you only have to find 100 people. And finding 100 people is a lot easier, believe me. Even though it's more expensive, you are more likely to find 100 people who can afford something which is 10,000 pounds than 10,000 people to afford something which is $100. It's why a lot of people, when they first start out, they sometimes jump straight into e-commerce, for example, for dropshipping. And what they find is that they're selling something which is very low ticket, so they have to get so much volume and they have to find such a large audience. So if you're selling something B2B, so business to business, or you're selling something business to customer, it's a lot easier because you can find 100 people. You can go on LinkedIn, you can find 100 people who are willing to pay 10,000. But the thing is, they don't have to pay that at once. This could be split over 4 years. And so that comes out to, if they're going to pay monthly, so you kind of want a client to be on a monthly retainer, just so you get the cash flow constantly coming in. But that's $208 a month. And they pay that for 4 years. So times that by 12, it's 2,500. Oh, don't add the extra zero. 2,500. And then 2,500 times 4 equals 10,000. And to make that happen, that's quite literally 2 people that you're closing every 2 weeks, which is very much achievable. But if you're anything like me, you probably want to move a bit faster than that. And so if you're someone who wants to do that in the first year, you have to close 2 deals every week. And if you're reaching out to 500 people a day, that is very achievable, believe me. And so that person, so one client, has to pay 833 times 12. which is roughly 10,000. It's about 9,996. But that person pays $833 a month. And so that suddenly doesn't seem so far away. That's closing 2 people a week, and each person is paying you $833 a month. And that gets you to 1 million by the end of the year. And that is very much achievable. And I always like to come back to one of my favorite people who I watch called Alex Hormozi, which is volume negates luck. The more volume you do, the more likely it is you will achieve that 2 closes a week. Because some weeks you might get 5, other weeks you might get 1. And so throughout the year, as long as you're hitting your goals, you will get to 1 million. And if you haven't looked at my goal setting video yet, have a look at that, because that will teach you how to properly set goals so that you actually achieve them. But that's what we're aiming for. And so it doesn't seem that far away. And so just coming back to this, with the GPT, you've got the 7-figure revenue maths. And so I wanted to give you that as a visualization of what it actually looks like in practice to get to 1 million. Again, just copy this straight across into the table. And finally, we have why this ICP is the best fit. And it's giving you a whole paragraph of why, including like based on your experience, why it's a good ICP, and the 7-figure business vision statement, which is basically everything that consolidated into one sentence of your offer, your target avatar, and why you are the person to sell to them. And again, just copy that straight across into the template. And so by the end, you will have this filled out and you will have a whole template of your whole 7-figure business plan. And that to me is so exciting. And I love just being able to kind of put it onto a piece of paper, or one line in this case, and just see it laid out. And that's what you need to do in order to get there. The next episodes will be on client acquisition. So how do you actually acquire these clients? But first, I wanted to give you this so you can build your business plan and understand how to actually run a 7-figure business. I will see you in the next episode.